Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. Welcome back to this series. We are exploring, I guess it's not really a series, but my focus this year on the Tarot de Marseille. And what I am endeavoring to do is to look at each of the suits energetically. And then eventually we'll get into the numbers and then the major arcana. So today is day 2, looking at the suit of cups. And in my notes, I say we are to next week start at the 8 of cups, but I thought I could just quickly go through and review some of the highlights, and then we can get into some of the latter numbers in the suit of water, the suit of cups. Welcome, Clevis. So please join in the conversation today. Whether you are new to pip cards, Marseille cards, whether you have years of experience, I think these conversations are invaluable. And so the decks that I am sharing with you today are left to right: the Tarot de Marseille, Jonas 4th edition. This is Pagan Otherworlds in the center, not a Tarot de Marseille. Then we have the Jodorowsky Come deck, and then the Marshmallow Marseille. And this card is just extraordinary, isn't it? I love this card. It's one of my favorite cards in the tarot, especially in the Marseille cards. I love the ornateness of this. And just before I get into that, I want to say welcome. And my name is Sadhana, if you are new to this channel. And this is a new year for me. And Happy New Year, by the way. Happy Lunar New Year. 2024 is a year of really going back and having a deep look at both pip cards, contemporary Tarot de Marseille, and some of the classic decks as well too, and beginning to work with them more regularly. There's just something about these cards. It's quite extraordinary. I'm fascinated with the history. I'm also doing a journey into working with playing cards, and I am having conversations about that Wednesday evenings in my Facebook group, which is linked below in the description box. Hello, Arya. Welcome. And Jennifer, namaste. Hello, Dee. So here we go. The one of the fundamental differences between RWS and Tarot de Marseille and various iterations is the nature of the open versus closed cup. So many of us are, hello Perry, are used to seeing the overflowing water, my cup runneth over sort of energy in the Ace of Cups. What we have in the Tarot de Marseille, though, is very different. We have it's almost like we have a walled city, a contained energy. It is a temple. It's a sacred goblet where there is there's a reverence. There's a reverence for the contained energy, and I love that it is protected. And so we see this in the Waite Smith, in the Queen of Cups, whose cup is also covered. And so I invite you to think about this and what the energy between these two sort of takes on the Ace of Cups, how you feel about it, and what it brings up for you. Now the Jonas, which is based and inspired by the work of Jodorowsky. This is her take on this card, and it's a very ornate glass goblet, I imagine, with some gold paint. This deck is very unique in that it has a limited color palette. There's a richness for me to the purple. I love the colors in this deck. I know not that the color palette isn't for everyone. I would say about 50% of the cards in this deck really, like, they do something for me. I can work with it. I love the shape of the deck. Any deck that comes in this shape, I just love handling these cards. The other thing about the Tarot de Marseille is, yes, looks like a Baccarat cup. The other thing about the Tarot de Marseille is the smaller, generally smaller nature of the cards. And I do have some very large Tarot de Marseille as well too, but I do love the little ones, the smaller nature, the narrower, smaller cards. Yeah. Okay. So let's just quickly go through some of these and see if there's other questions that feel important to review. Hello, Saskia. Welcome. Namaste. One of the things that arose last week was the idea of the growth in between in several of the cards, separating the cups. And I think that is something to, I mean, I find the Two of Cups a really interesting card in pretty much every deck. And I think as a reader, it's important to consider what two, and two is one of those numbers that has so many associations. So if in the ace, we're looking at the energy of the seed, the completeness, the pure potential of the suit. The seed cracks open, and let's say it first cracks into two pieces. Those pieces crack apart to grow, to expand, so the seed can become its potential. Why is that separation necessary? Why is that brokenness necessary? You know how people say, you know, you're not broken. We're not broken. We're not, what's the kind of expression, like, you are perfect, you are whole, you are everything you need to be, right? You are a soul having a human experience. These experiences that feel like brokenness are just part of the journey of life. And this is, you know, all of what tarot is about. But there's something in the twos that's really hard because we are separate. We are separate, and we're looking at a disparate piece of ourself. And twos can be quite difficult because they bring up relationship, and all twos speak to relationship, and this one speaks to something that tugs at us. And sometimes we don't like to look at that water and look at that mirror. I love a two that we have a bit of scrying going on. So here in the Marseille Tarot, right, we have this, I mean, if you look at the Tarot de Marseille, the cups are so little. And what is between and among is even greater, like keeping us apart. It's really something to think about. And that rock formation in the pagan otherworlds, it's very significant. Let's go to D's. Yeah, there is a dichotomy. Thank you, Clevis. Yes, and this is an important discussion in the Tarot de Marseille, and that is how does the deck creator use the white space? Does the deck creator fill the white space with greenery when there are fewer objects? Or, do something else? And this is, so there are several cards in the Tarot de Marseille that carry the marks of the artist, so the engraver, And then we have cards that mark the printer. And I think there is another as well too. So there's different markings on decks. And in the Two of Cups here we have a phrase, really, an affirmation, a pure construction of spirit. And on this particular deck, we have a coat of arms. And somebody please let us know what this coat of arms, or at least that's what it looks like to me. There are two angelic figures at the base of the, two angels. It's almost like, it's such an interesting card. And if we're looking at the base here, there's almost a mirror reflection in the pagan otherworlds, like this monumental. I don't know what I want to do with this, but it really puts a weight on this card. Think about your favorite Waite-Smith deck. Think about the idea of the symbol, the wand of Asclepius, the caduceus, that powerful energy that is featured between the two cups. Often the couple is not looking at each other. It's like there's this like iconic figure between the two of them. Advertising in very early times. Yeah. And gosh, I'm going to have to go back through the history of the Tarot de Marseille, but there is a reason why the engraver couldn't also do the printing. There's a historical reason why the engraver and the publishing house couldn't be the same party. There's a reason why it got, and I can't remember the story of why that happened, but yeah, these marks are significant. So the Chariot is another place you'll also see a marking, sometimes in the Four of Pentacles, often in the Two of Pentacles. Yeah. There's a grandness to this card. Spirit. Spirit flows through. Spirit expands into this card. Oh, okay. So Kenton has, yes, something like that. Hi, Kenton. Welcome. It was a union versus guild issue. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Oh, good. We've got more knowledge here. Thank you. And yes, of course, the notion of taxes, the way that different businesses, guilds, unions were taxed and some weren't taxed, and the government had their pennies in all of this as well too. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, I think this is really interesting. The ornateness, the symbology of the rocks in this picture, and the it's almost, I don't know what it is, like the what is in the center in this deck. The potential for tremendous flourishing energy is here. And honestly, I feel like the Yanasa Yos Two of Cups is a bit of a cop-out. This deck has so much potential to be. It's one of those cards I want to pass over. However, I say that and then I remember, all right, this is not, when we're talking about relationship, one of the important things in the Two of Cups also is the relationship with self. And this is a card that asks us to look at the response to our emotions. Which deck are you talking about? Dee says the Two of Cups has animal type heads on the flowers. Let me know which one you're talking about. So then in this card, the piece that I'm really liking, in the Noble. Yes, in the Noble. This is not the Noble, but this is the Kamwan Yadaraski. Yeah. I don't have the Noble open. But yes, there's that. So isn't that interesting? Oh, okay. So there's a there's a real passion in this card. So maybe that's where the idea of love and an abundance of emotion comes in here. Fishy heads all over. Yeah. Okay. So what I was saying about this card that I like. So we're in a water suit, and yet we have the blade, the fire symbol, and there's something here about the union of those two elements, the shape of the cups being upward facing that feels significant. We also have, look at this one. It's like there's another masculine symbol here. We have what looks like a cone in this one. I just find it really intriguing, this subtle sort of blending, potential blending of elements. And so as we've been discussing through some of the wands and last week's discussion, is that the pip decks, like the pagan otherworlds, don't necessarily commit. So some of the cards you will find a real similarity to the design of the Tarot de Marseille, and then random cards just do their own thing. So we have this sort of step ladder, this building of energy. There's a symbolic here of growth. And so we see, I suppose, we see this ladder of progress. And what I see in the Tarot de Marseille and the Jodorowsky deck is a real strength of this building of energy. And I just don't get that in this particular card. There's a weakness. Okay, so what happens when a flower gets cut? I think we see cut flowers in the Six of Cups, right? In the Rider-Waite-Smith. We know these flowers aren't going to live long. I don't know, there's something about that that makes me feel. So where is the growth of the emotion? Now, I also, so something I'm not sure I talked about last time, but with the threes, there's a real power to that number. Oh, let's go to this one. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Mhm. I do want to do that. And oh my goodness, Dee, I'm having so, it's so interesting looking at the playing card history. And I'm really kind of glad I'm doing this simultaneously. Yeah. And I need to remember that as well, too. So remember that the Tarot de Marseille are the cards that came from northern Italy and then to France and then back to Italy. You know what this reminds me of, and this is completely sort of nuts, is so Reiki. Reiki. So the energy of Reiki. I mean, Reiki has always been around. Jesus did Reiki, for my goodness. Um, Healing energy. But the label, the label Reiki originated in Japan with Usui Sensei. That through Takata Sensei traveled to the United States. It took on many, many different iterations of healing energy. And it was because of people beginning to travel after World War II that Reiki went back to Japan, and the form of Reiki that had transformed in the Americas and in Europe met the original underground version of Reiki, and they discovered each other. And it's so interesting because if you think about Tarot de Marseille, which has that French name, came from northern Italy and then into France, and then there's this part that went back into Italy, and then Switzerland and different places as well too. But this this energy travels and morphs with culture and artists and intellectuals, and we're not looking at older decks here, but the influence for sure. Okay, now Perry commented on the cut flowers. Okay, now this is a good point. They can root or they can decay. Oh, right. That is an interesting reflection, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Hmm. And what do they need to root? Okay. These are all really good reflections. Okay. I don't think there is any question that fours represent stability. So, or structure or foundations, safety. So, this is a place for perhaps a containment of emotions, but if, or a foundation or it's a stability. It's a place for stability of emotions. Um, and when I look at some of these cards, so we have consistency in three of the decks. And what are we looking at in the Yonasios? We're looking at something that feels kind of, and this is a really interesting card. I mean, what she's doing with her right hand. Um, yeah, I don't know where in the world I would want to go with that. I have never seen anybody do a sort of deep dive with the Onasa Yaos. Now, what's going on in pagan otherworlds? We have a sort of complex cave structure, really interesting rock formation, and then one cup is separate, which is very Waite Smith. And so here is something that I want to remember as I work with the Tarot de Marseille. So Tarot de Marseille is a great beginner's deck because we work with a group of keywords for a number, and then we describe an element in terms of that number. Right? Basic. What happens in the when the drawing becomes very specific is we're looking at one possible interpretation of what that containment of emotion represents. Emotion. So let's go right. Wait, Smith. So emotionally, I am full. Emotionally, in the fours, if we hang out in the fours too long, either the water stagnates and goes putrid, rancid, or a pressure builds up and we burst out of it. It can go one way or the other. You know, we need to have a hole in the wall. And sometimes that crack in the wall happens naturally. And because the window hasn't been opened, perhaps there's this sense of ennui, of boredom. Pagan other worlds, look at the rocks, the strength there. There's a great foundation for, you know, it's solid, it's good, it's good. But there's a piece that's something that's not right. That's not right. So I think it's important to remember that we, unless the question has gone in that direction, it's important to read these cards as a four of water and to let go of images, paintings from Golden Dawn based decks. Because there is something really strong in the Four of Cups. It's solid, it's balanced, it's perfectly balanced and harmonious. And so the emotions are in a really good place. Mm. Really interesting. I love reflecting on and observing nurse trees and their journey. I live in a place where I observe them all the time. Yeah. Okay, so another thing we talked about last week was the various ways that water presents. It presents in different forms. It can be a solid, it can be a liquid, it can be a gas. And we don't necessarily see that in the Tarot de Marseille, but I think it's important to remember that. So in the five, and if you think of the energy of five, the energy, so we have a something solid, we have a foundation, and then from perhaps the pressure of that, something begins, like there's a new birth, something begins to grow, and you will see like in the Tarot de Marseille, lots of flourishing energy. The five is not a bad thing. we grow through that pressure. And if you look at the 5 in the Yonasi Yaus, I really like what Perry is saying here, that we need to remember that there is growth in the letting go. And I think that is one of the reasons why, so like Pixie's art, for example, in the Waite-Smith deck. So 5 is a pentacle, right? And if you think about the star, the energy of the star, the pentacle, the pentagram as a star, it's not a negative symbol. It's a pivotal point, an inflection point, thank you, Clevis, of change. And I have often said, this is it's like a place where we need to decide which way we're going to go, because that container of the 4 was really comfortable. But there's a danger in hanging out there too long. So let's grow through the pressure. Let's grow through the pressure of the 4 into something. Another thing I see here, so you can look at the Tarot de Marseille on the far left, or in the marshmallow, or actually in the Yaroski as well too. There's something. So we have 2. This one feels a little bit protected. But also what I'm seeing is an upward facing triangle. And then on top of the upward facing triangle, there's 2 that are growing. So it's like we have a 3 plus a 2. A 3 plus a 2. So if you look at that in terms of your keywords for 3 and 2, and look at 5 as 3 plus 2, and 3 as growth and creativity. And from the growth and the creativity, we have this new, this new way of looking at things. I think there's a lot of ways we can take these apart. And then here, the 2, the 4, the 6, we have this idea of separation. But in the Maria Celia, it's all so beautifully interconnected. Yes, the 3 and the 3 are like a mirror at each other. The 3 reflects upon the 3. But there's so much that is flourishing there. And then look at this deck here. And also the cups, right? The cups don't touch each other. They stand alone, each individual cup. I don't know what I want to say there, but it's like there's something different in this card in that each individual cup is strong. Nothing really, they are layered upon one another, but there's a strength here. Now, if I think about other associations that have been placed on this perfect number 6, it is a number of balance and peace and harmony. It's a perfect number mathematically, energetically. And there's something here about 3 looking at 3. I think it really shows us in the Tarot de Marseille that 6 is a 3 plus 3. And that's helpful to me. That's really helpful. And we see that again in the 9, right? We see a 3 plus a 3 plus a 3, which helps to simplify. And we have daffodils growing out of the cups in the, or narcissus growing out of the cups in the pagan otherworlds. Look at the Ionassios. She has cut, perhaps wilted flowers on her lap, and the sun is setting. Is the peace in the letting go? Is she picking up on the nostalgia and the idea that if we live in the past, we can't be present? It's interesting. It's like it's trying to pick up on bits or influences of Waite Smith art, I think. Now, like the 5, in the 7, we have a cup that stands alone. But again, I feel like it grows brighter and stronger through the experience of the 6. 7 is magic. 7 is a really powerful number. There is universal connection to the magic of 7. And the thing I do like about this Ionassios card is that it reminds me of the power of connection. And because of the bees, we have the flowers. Because of the way that nature works intrinsically, things grow and flourish. These are the healthiest looking flowers that we see, I believe, in this suit so far. So 7s, they carry us out of. There's lots of growth and lots of movement. Think of chariot energy, right? So this is carrying us forward. And the cards are beginning to get full. Vibrant and beautiful abundance. Oh. Interesting. I like that word, Dee. There's a formality to it, isn't there? And when you say that as well, too, I think about again, maybe that's where I'm thinking of the 3 and the 3, the 2 sides of something. And I don't know if that is 2 sides of the dinner table, or maybe there's 3 people, maybe it's a debate. Yeah, I like that processional alignment, but I'm also looking at comparing and contrasting the 3s. Okay. Now, anything else about the 7? I know we talked about this last week. So let's go on. Let's do the 8, 9, and 10 because we didn't touch on it in last Saturday's discussion. So the final three numbers, 8, 9, and 10, take us to the fulfillment, the completion of the suit. And 8 is it's a powerful number of change. Emotionally, intuitively, things begin to grow. Now, I wonder if in the Marseille we can get to this lemniscate sort of energy, looking at the power of 8 and how we can't go back to where we were. You know, it's like as we move with this lemniscate energy and we go back to that midpoint, we're never where we were before. We're at a different level. And how might that be reflected? Well, there's a clarity for sure in the blue here. I'm not sure that we've seen that. It seems very bright. We do see blue in the center, sort of this one. But there's something about these 4, 5 blue flowers. The blue is just really prominent in this card. There feels like there's a power in the water. Okay, and then Jennifer shares an observation from the medieval tarot. And then Clevis mentioned the word phalanx, and then D followed up, and Roman armies fought in the line and squares, the phalanx. Okay. And it's funny, you know, when you say that. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. When you say that, one of the things that's coming to mind is the power and the military being associated with the emperor of the time, and the emperor being a descendant of the sun or of the gods, and the number 3, 6, 9 being connected to divinity. Maybe this is about the power, the strength of that. I could certainly go there, especially with the 6 being connected to the hexagram and the Star of David and the power of divinity. That's quite a rabbit hole to go down. But this 8, there's something new here in the 8. I also get a sense of creativity in the 8. And the expansion of water. All of the cups are supported by a flower or a leaf. Look at in the Yonasuyos, look at the hair. Either look at it flowing upwards or flowing downwards. Look at the shape that the hair creates. Do you see something there? I think you're onto something here. Because 4 creates containment, stability. And with the 8, we are doubling that. So, in a way, this could represent that moment in between breath. Mm-hmm. And then Perry says the hair, right? You can see the flow. The 8 to me is change with flow, and the hair is half a lemniscate. Mm-hmm. I think her face is surrounded, like in the central 2 cups and the 8. As a tarot reader, I made some dismissive comments about some of the cards in this deck. I think it's important to look at every single card from a bit of a distance. And if you think about the energy of Shiva, for example, so Lord Shiva, his hair, his dreadlocks are the Ganga, the river Ganges. And I wonder if the creator of the Yonasa Yaos is using the hair in that way. Three is Empress. 9 is Hermit. 3 plus 3 plus 3. Why in the 9 does the triple growth, triple expansion turn us to an inward reflection, to a look within? When we come to the fulfillment of the Suit of Cups, what is that connection? And I'm sure we each have a different response to that. And perhaps it has to do a little bit with humility and the idea of when the emotions are full and we feel fulfilled emotionally, when we feel spiritually connected emotionally, when we understand that we're in a good place, we're in a place of peace and harmony and balance, and everything we aspire to is with us. It's like those moments where we just sort of raise our chin and we look up and we just say, thank you. Thank you. Shall we compare the ace What do you see when you look at the Ace of Cups versus the Nine of Cups in the Yonasa House? I see masculine and feminine. There's a softness for me in the 9. It's quite an interesting comparison. Some of the flowers, the daisies, adorn the stem, and some thrive in the water. Now, in this particular one, I think there's one flower that's starting to lose its petals, but most of them are quite alive. I think this is usually I do this with the ace and the 10, but I think there's something quite poignant here. So let me know what you think there. We were saying in the 6 that it felt formal. It felt, it's very aligned. It's kind of rigid. And then we have yet another row here. But notice how I'm just looking. In the Marshmallow Marseille, the rows are separated. Everything is separated in the Ottoroski deck. And again, I feel like there is Perry expresses it very well. Individually. Each individual emotion is significant and it stands equally important. And yes, we can look at 333. We can look at 6 plus 3. And again, there is this it's kind of perfect. It's very graceful. And 9 is the number of God. 9 is the number of divinity. 9 is the number of splendor. Nothing is disturbed. All is well and all is growing strong. If you think about this like one of those self-watering trellises where the rainwater, it hits the top layer and then it flows down and it naturally feeds the lower levels. That's what I feel like. I feel like it's self-sustaining. We've learned the lessons, and so the emotions are self-sustaining. It's very harmonious. And perhaps part of it is held by grace. So here's another question. Why does the Tarot de Marseille deviate from the traditional alignment of the 10th cup? So have a look at this. We have a large cup and a smaller cup, whereas in traditional Tarot de Marseille, we have 333 and 1 cup on the top. And it's usually a larger cup. So we do have a larger cup. All of the other cups are the same size. So are you going to read, and look what's growing out. I mean, the enormous flower that's growing out of that one. When I pull a 10 of cups in a deck more like these two here, I want to remember that the 10th cup is on its side because the water needs to flow. We are at a place of cycling and completion. And for wealth, and this is about sharing, this is about expressing. And perhaps, yes, we have. Is it like the Ace of Cups has now joined the party? Hmm. When I look at the Yonasayos, it's like the water has come to life. The water is living. The energy in the water is actually visibly alive. The water is it's like we can taste it, we can feel it, we can smell it. The water is a living body. And I think this is a good point in that we tend to think of no, I shouldn't say we. One, people sometimes think of emotions as separate from self. And what emotion is the energy of the movement of, right? Motion, energy in motion. And I'm constantly amazed by that hyphenated form of the word emotion. And so this flow, this movement of energy, it is happy and it is sad. We have so much water. It is so important that we keep it flowing, that we keep it alive, that we keep it living, that we are constantly letting it go because we know it will replenish on its own, that we honor its sacredness, that we honor its ability to, yeah, it must flow, it must turn, it must go on. I don't even know what this means. Let the water live. Let the water live. There's a piece of body of music that I listen to all the time. I play it when I'm working, and it's called Living Waters. Like there's an effervescence to these cards. Okay, let's go to Jennifer's comments. When I think that 9 is the number of God, it makes me think that God reached down a finger and tipped over a cup to remind us to keep moving. The 10th cup is your emotional final legacy. It is the one covered by the lid like a coffin. It's your eulogy. You're done, but your inheritors remember you with a flourish, funeral, memory. And there's something about the heaviness of that top cup, right? It will fall off. Gravity will win here, and it's going to fall down, and it's going to knock the dominoes over. But don't we need that? We need all of those cups to be knocked over so that they can be filled again, so that we can learn to stand them up again. And maybe, just maybe, that is why Golden Dawn correspondence, 10 of Cups, is Mars. Mars in Pisces. That energy of Mars sort of knocks us over. It makes us remember how important the spilling and the filling is. Hmm. Thank you for that, Sharon. And remember that there is so many interpretations and ways to respond to your cards. So, what um, oh, so what comes through to you in any given moment, let that move through you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. These are great. I think this really adds to all of our experience with these cards. So next week we will have a look at one of the other suits in detail, and I'll bring a variety of decks to the table. And hopefully you can join in the discussion at the same time. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your weekend and take good care, all of you. Appreciate you all so much. Namaste.